And welcome back. Well, it's finally happened. According to a new poll out today, Bernie Sanders has overtaken Hillary Clinton by a margin of 44 to 37% among Democratic primary voters in New Hampshire. The new Franklin Pierce University Boston Herald poll finds that the Vermont senator is leading the field of Democratic candidates for the first time by 7 points as Mrs. Clinton falls to second place. Now, coming in third place with 9% of the vote, despite not even being a candidate, is Vice President Joe Biden. The other candidates, former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley, former Rhode Island Governor Lincoln Chafee, and former Virginia Governor Jim Webb, each only managed to grab 1% of the vote or less. Now, the poll also notes that Senator Sanders' favorability rating is considerably higher than Mrs. Clinton's, 54 to 36%. However, according to New Hampshire Democrats, Hillary is still the most likely candidate to win the Democratic nomination with 65% of the vote versus Sanders' 11%. So, Bernie Sanders now leads in New Hampshire with favorability ratings far higher than Hillary Clinton's, and he's drawing massive crowds everywhere he goes. But when it's all said and done, Joe, will Hillary still get the nomination?
No, and not because of Bernie Sanders, but because of the aforementioned Joe Biden. As we talked about before, all those polls that we're reading are before that news that broke today. I want to see the polls that come out after this, and then if there's indictments and so on and so forth. That changes the whole ballgame. So we're kind of talking in the past at this point.
Joe makes a great point. I mean, at this point in time, Hillary's not really running against Bernie Sanders. She's running against the potential of a criminal indictment. Yeah. That is who her opponent is now.
There was an NPR reporter today, excuse me for not getting the right name, but she said the emails that ate the campaign. I loved that. Because that's essentially what's happening here is she's fighting against every story that comes out against her. And how do you run a campaign that way? You're not getting your message out. You're either staying silent or responding to allegations. You know, you can't survive a campaign no matter how much groundwork you do on house parties.
Well, but you know how you may survive a campaign? When you see that figure that says that 66% of Democrats don't want an investigation.
Well, 50% also want Joe Biden to run. Let me just put that in there.
That's what I find really important here that you can't just gloss over necessarily. No. I don't think that this email scandal is really having as much of an effect on her numbers on the Democratic side of things as it is on the Independent side of things and the Republican side of things. And I believe Independents vote in New Hampshire and Democratic primary. They do in the Republican primary. So that matters in New Hampshire. I don't know if Hillary Clinton can, or certainly Bernie Sanders can keep the Obama coalition together. I've written that Joe Biden probably can. He's probably better positioned to do that. But I don't necessarily think that Bernie Sanders voters bolt all of a sudden over to Joe Biden's camp. This is the Donald Trump wing of the Democratic Party. These guys are disaffected, they are angry, they are frustrated, they want to see the country move much farther left than even Barack Obama's directed the country. And Joe Biden isn't going to be the instrument of that kind of change.
I have to disagree with you on that. When you start to look at who's supporting Bernie Sanders, there's a lot of the people who have been part of the Democratic Party who don't trust Hillary. I mean, listen, if Joe Biden weren't an option here, I would be supporting Bernie Sanders. You know, there's a lot of people that were part of the Obama campaign.
I got to interrupt you.
Yeah.
He is a socialist, or he says he is a socialist. And does that mean that you want a socialist United States?
You can't jump to major conclusions
but that's the question that hasn't been asked that probably should be asked.
I mean,
and isn't maybe the right answer that Bernie Sanders isn't really a classic socialist?
I don't think he's a classic socialist. I think that he's talking about issues that Democrats have been wanting to talk about, that a lot of Obama supporters wanted to bring up during the last 8 years, but because we had so many other issues, they weren't able to discuss income inequality because we were just trying to get out of a recession.
But it is a complete dead end, right, Joe, when it comes to a general election. You only need one campaign commercial. This man has called himself a socialist since he began his political career. The Republican, didn't say it. He said it.
Right. I already have John Kasich's.
Election's over.
I already have his bumper sticker.
You can have anybody's bumper sticker.
The bumper sticker says, "At least I'm not a socialist." Boom.
There you go.
I win. That's the end of it.
But Noah points something out that I do find interesting. In the case of Trump, the media is reacting to what's happening. Right. In the case of Hillary, the media is projecting.
Right.
And there's a big difference there.
I find it remarkable that we say, Donald Trump is substanceless and empty, and that's fair. But we also say that, well, Bernie Sanders is totally, genuine and down the line and has real issues, and he's tapping into a vein of actual anger and frustration at certain direct issues, particularly campaign finance and healthcare and the like. But we don't talk about his policy positions in the press. We talk about the size of his crowds. We talk about the energy
about his
history of his movement. And we don't talk about the fact that he was a non-entity in the upper chamber until about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We refuse to talk about the issues that I think matter in Bernie Sanders because we're dismissing his campaign. And if we did, it wouldn't reflect especially well on the people who are supporting him.
Boy, that's so
But
true.
I don't think we're dismissing it because there are real supporters there that are part of the Democratic institution that just don't support
I'd
Hillary.
love to talk about Bernie Sanders' policy prescriptions.
Rick, all we heard about, and Noah's exactly right, every headline you saw yesterday was 27,000 in Los Angeles from Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, no,
not
that's
a
it.
thing about what
his
was said in the
policies.
speech.
That's exactly right. Well, what do you think? Can Bernie Sanders actually beat Hillary Clinton? And should Bernie Sanders beat Hillary Clinton? Go to newsmaxtv.com/comments to let us know. Coming up next, it's that time we read some of your viewer comments. Don't go anywhere.